Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that you've managed to get hold of some water from a fairly clean source, you know, perhaps a fast-flowing river or a fairly clean lake, or rainwater, which is what I'd be using personally. First up is boiling. Very straightforward. It's a time-honoured way of making your water safe for drinking. All you do is you put that water into a clean container and you bring it to the boil. Now, there has been a lot of, or there is a lot of speculation on the internet about how long you boil it for. My most recent research has suggested that the moment it starts to boil, that's all you need to do. The only exception to that rule is if you're at high altitude, you may need to run it on a rolling boil for a set period of time, which I believe is about 3 minutes. Now, another option for boiling water without you know, electricity or gas is something like this. Some of you may not know what this is, others may not. This is called a Kelly kettle, and these are quite ingenious and rather excellent. What it is it's like a little funnel shaped, it's like a little chimney thing, but it's hollow inside, and what you can do is you've got a little stopper there, you pour water in there. I think this takes a couple of pints, I think. And all you do is put a few dry twigs or bits of paper or whatever in there. It's got a little air hole, and you light it. It sort of makes a little jet engine. It's really kind of cool. You just turn this hole so that it's facing into the wind. Obviously you're doing this outside, and what happens is you get this little, it almost looks like a little jet engine coming out here. Now, it doesn't take very long at all because the water is so close to the flames going on here. You can have boiling water in just a couple of minutes. This is a really worthwhile investment. I would recommend this to anyone. Now, the second and highly effective way of purifying water is through chemicals. Now, there are two main chemicals available to you. One of them is iodine, or iodine, and the other is chlorine. Now, I personally don't recommend iodine simply because it's only good for short-term use. Now, based on that information, my chemical of choice is chlorine. Now, there are several ways you can obtain chlorine. First of all, you've got chlorine tablets. These are specifically designed for the purification of water, and you can get them, you know, on places like eBay and things like that. They're not too expensive, although they're not that cheap either. A cheaper alternative is something like ordinary household bleach. Now, you have to be really careful here. Okay, here are two different types of household bleach. This one is suitable, this one is not. This one is thick bleach, and it has other chemicals in it that are really not good for you. No good whatsoever. What you want is basic thin bleach. Okay, the only ingredient that you need is sodium hypochlorite. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these sort of Tesco's, Asda's own type bleaches because they're not that specific on their ingredients. All it says is chlorine based bleaching agent and disinfectant. So it's not telling me what I want to know. But quite recently I did discover baby's sterilising fluid for baby's bottles and everyday use. Okay, the one listed ingredient on this is 5% sodium hypochlorite. And that is exactly the ingredient you need to sterilise your water. So in order to sterilise a water, let's just say I've got this out of the water butt. This is rainwater. This is about half a gallon. So what I would need to do is take about, well, for half a gallon I need between 4 and 8 drops, depending on how contaminated I believe that water is. Just put 4 to 8 drops of this sodium hypochlorite into the water, give it a little shake, and then leave it to stand for at least 30 minutes, preferably 45 minutes. Now, the important test here, after 45 minutes, you should be able to take the lid off, and yeah, if you smell faint chlorine, the water is safe to drink. If you can't smell anything, or it doesn't smell quite right, then you do it again. You add the same amount, put it in, leave it for 30 to 45 minutes. Obviously give it a shake first, let it stand, and then again take the lid off, and it's only when you can smell faint chlorine is it safe to drink. Now when using chlorine, it's very important that the water is clear and clean, because any particulate matter, what can happen is in the little particulates you can get viruses and bacteria actually hide in the particulate matter, and the chlorine can't get to it. So you still end up with contaminated water even though you've added the chlorine. So it's very, very important to make sure the water that you use with chlorine is clean. Now if your water source is potentially contaminated, you need to go a step further and you need to filter that water. Now for filtered water, obviously you're going to need some sort of a filter. There are several on the market, well there are lots on the market. I've got 2 here to work with, and a third option I'll show you in a minute. First option is, this is something called a hydropal, and it's obviously like a sports water bottle. And the cool thing about this is if you take the lid off, it has its own built-in filter. Now I believe this is a charcoal based filter. You can get the ceramic type filters as well, which are extremely good for filtering out, you know, all your nasty bugs and viruses and things. The only thing with this is when you use it, you can go to a stream or a lake or any source of water, preferably the cleaner the water the better, scoop it up. But what you do need to do is add a chlorine tablet to it, give it a shake, leave it for about at least 30 minutes, preferably 45, and then as you pull the lid up, and as you obviously draw the water through, you're drawing it through the filter and it's taking out all the nasty stuff. So that's one option. Another option is to get a drinking water purifier. Got one here. This essentially is, you can go to virtually any source of water. You plug in, this is your pump, this is your filter. You put your the hose into the the lake or wherever it is you're getting it from. You use the pump to pump the water through. It pumps it through a ceramic filter which takes out virtually everything, including bacteria and viruses. And it literally, what comes out of this hose is pure drinking water. Now these are absolutely excellent, especially the ceramic ones. They are very, very, very good. The only thing is they're quite expensive. Now finally, if you are struggling to get water that is relatively clear, if you don't have a sort of a fast moving stream or a relatively clean lake, or don't have access to rainwater, there is a way of getting around it. I found these on eBay. Extremely useful. These are used for biodiesels, and what it is, it's basically an industrial filter, and you can get various grades. This particular one is a 1 micron filter. You can put dirty water in here, but as long as it can have a lot of sort of particulate matter and stuff like that, and what comes out of the bottom should be relatively clean water. What you do is you catch it in preferably a glass jar or something where you can actually see the colour of the water. Catch it in a glass jar, let it sit for probably about an hour, maybe 2. Then hopefully any sediment and things is going to settle out, and hopefully you should end up with some relatively clean water. So that's it for this video. This was just a very, very brief touch on the very, very basics of purifying water. I hope this information was useful to someone. Obviously this is now knowledge that you have. Hopefully you'll never need it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.